a member here at First Free in Moline, and I get the privilege of introducing our new pastor, which is Pastor Don McLean and his wife, Laura, and just want to invite you to stay tuned for conversation as we get to know each other a little bit better. I'm nervous because, first of all, growing up in the church, when you're in the pastor's office, you're either in trouble or in trouble.
That's true. I've had people come into my office, like, they've been in the church 15 years, like, I've never been in here. I was telling them that's a good thing.
Oh, that's a good thing to avoid the pastor's study.
Well, it can be.
So we're starting on a lighthearted note because I love bloopers. It's one of the things we share as radio people. We love to share our bloopers with people because we all have them. So I'm going to ask you first a question. Do pastors have bloopers? And do you tend to remember them, or funny stories or things that happen during the service?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you definitely have those slips of the tongue. Mm-hmm. There's too many of those to remember them all, I think. But I just give this a little bit of thought ahead of time. And we have this kind of, it's a story in our family from when our kids were little. Mm-hmm. So in our first church, it was a smaller sanctuary, and I think we still only had the two at the time. Probably, yeah.
We have three kids.
We have three children, and our middle child, who's 26 now, was probably 2 or 3. And Laura was not in the sanctuary. She must have been teaching a Sunday school class, I think. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I thought I could handle this, let's call him 3. Mm-hmm. Our 3-year-old was just going to stay with me while I preached. And so, but I had him all. It was fine. He was great. He loved to read, and so I had gotten him a book. And so he had one of his books, and he was sitting there in the front row, and I said, Josh, just read your book while I wasn't going to say his name, now he's out in public, but he hates this story. Actually, he's okay with it. But so Josh is sitting there reading his book, I start preaching, but the mistake I made was that it was a talking book. And so he starts turning the pages, and he starts pushing the buttons, and there start being animal noises. Moo, oink, 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 like all the animal noises. And I think
he was oblivious.
He was oblivious. He had no clue that this would bother anybody or be an issue. And so I think actually the congregation was enjoying it to no end, better than what I was doing. But finally I had to stop. This is the part that's hard. It was embarrassing for our little 3-year-old son. I had to stop and say, Josh, could you please stop reading your book or stop?
But you were the one that told him to read the book.
Yeah. I know it was terrible. So the whole thing was my fault. I should have known better. But, so yeah, that's one of my favorite kind of in the middle of a sermon stories. Yeah.
So as you think about your roles as pastor and pastor's wife, can you kind of put 3 words kind of to describe what that means to you?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to? I'll go first.
What if we contradict?
I know it. So one word that comes to mind is privilege. That really is how I. Oh wow, there you go. Now you only have to do 2.
No, now I have to come up with a new one.
Okay, you have 30 seconds. I do really think of it that way. It is a privilege to serve the Lord this way and the Lord's people this way. Yeah, it just is. It's I do believe all work is good work and is holy in the Lord's eyes, but there's something about this call that's a privilege. Another word, I did give this a little bit of thought. We chatted before. To be transparent, is grueling. It can be grueling. I don't know if that might be a little strong, but it is. There are days and weeks and seasons when it's hard, when you go through hard things, or your people go through hard things, or the church goes through hard. I mean, sometimes the hours are long. Not always. Sometimes you get a lighter week, but although I'm one of those guys who fills in the lighter week with more work. But anyway, but it can be hard. And I think the third word I was thinking about was eternal. Because one of the parts of the privilege, maybe this goes back to the first one, is that I get to invest in people eternally, and you don't always see it now, right? You don't always see the difference that we get to make now, but we kind of by faith keep investing in eternity for the Lord. Yeah.
So how about you, Laura?
So one of the words that I kind of realized probably in the first 5 years we were in ministry is unique, because it really is. There's other jobs or positions in life which might be sort of similar. I think about what it'd be like to be like a senator's wife or, you know, something like that. But there's nothing that quite has the same level of sort of expectations and also of, you know, I'm still a layperson. Like I still, you know, go to church on Sundays because to worship God and to hear what God has for me from his word, you know, it just happens to be my husband who's sharing it. So I think that I think someone who's not a pastor's wife would have a hard time kind of seeing the ways in which that's sort of really a unique role in terms of the church and in terms of other things, you know, and just in life. But the second one is service, because really kind of what captures that uniqueness is that there's a lot of service involved in this, and I have such great opportunities to serve people, to serve my husband first of all, and then, you know, to serve others, because I get to know, you know, about the needs and stuff that are there, and I get to even just sort of sharing Don with the congregation in that way, in terms of like his spirit, is a way that like I serve in a sense. And I'll put it in with privilege. I'll call it an honor instead of privilege, but I really mean the same thing. And one of the things I love about being a pastor's wife is that, you know, I have like Bible answer man in my house all the time. So, and I don't know if most people get to have that. So it's
You don't have to call 800.
Oh my
or anything
goodness,
like
is that?
God answer.
Is there one?
She probably fact checks.
It is frequent that, you know, when I'm just reading my Bible and I'll have a question and I can ask him and get clarification, and a lot of times he'll say, yeah, I would have to go look that up in the Hebrew or something like that. But it's really nice to be able to, you know, I think it's really helped me deepen my understanding of the word, and just the conversations that we get to have together are really great. And so that part of it is a huge like bonus for being a pastor's wife, as well as the privilege of serving, like Don was talking about.
So as you're new to the community, we just want to say welcome to our church, but also welcome to the Quad Cities community. And I thought of questions that I could ask you, like how many kids you have, where you're from, how long you've been a pastor, but what would you like our community to know about you?
Wow.
I think you were going to talk about the family.
Yeah, I was going to answer. You know.
Oh, we love family.
Okay, all right, well. So, the thumbnail, a lot of the folks in our church have maybe heard this, maybe not. So, we've been married for 33 years, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Coming up on 33.
Coming up on 33 years. Met in college. We went to college in Western Massachusetts, a liberal arts school there. Not a Bible college, but that really is where we got our call to ministry. I and then us together. We got married when I graduated. We have 3 children. Went to seminary. Went to Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, which has now moved to Canada. But that's another story. We are. Let's see. We have the 3 kids. They're late 20s, mid 20s, and early 20s. So they're in that span. Our daughter Hannah, and then our son Josh, his wife Sarah, and our son Nathaniel. So that's our family. I'm from New York originally, upstate New York, and Laura's from the Chicago area. That's kind of that basic bio stuff. I have what I would like the whole community to know about me, Deb, is that I'm looking for a job. So I know networking is the best way to find a job. So I hope that this gets to the entire community and someone reaches out. You can contact the church and my husband will get it to me. And I've been telling everybody that I'm looking for work, because someone told me a story about their own job search and said that they were talking to their postal carrier that they were looking for a job, and that person was like, oh, you know, actually my sister does something, and they ended up getting a job through their postal carrier. So it makes me think that you really got to tell everybody.
Well, you never know, and if it happens, we'll have to come back on
that would be really cool.
How God worked through that. Thinking of God working in our life, you know, the gospel really does transform our lives. All the way through our journey with Christ. In fact, our mission here is to love, lead, and equip people in a growing relationship with Jesus. And so, how has the gospel transformed you?
Is it okay if we're a little more serious?
Sure, yes.
So I did not come from a family that was following the Lord probably wouldn't even really call themselves Christians. And my dad was an alcoholic, and my parents eventually got a divorce, mostly because of that. So my upbringing was a little bit unstable, I'll say, like in those ways that we wish all kids could have that kind of stability. And, in that, as a friend from school invited me to come to Awana programs when I was in third grade. And I went, and then from Awana, I got invited to go to Sunday school, and I was like, well, yeah, sure, I guess, yeah. I think there really was a part of me that probably was seeking. I mean, I certainly had heard of God, and, and knew that was something that was out there, and wanted to learn more. And through that, I heard about asking Jesus into my heart, and I did, and I think that I was changed when I did that, because then I really wanted to learn more about him and wanted to grow. And so I do think sometimes about, well, what would my life have been like? I mean, it's not like in America I would have never encountered the gospel. I think I probably would have, but it was pretty cool that even though I wasn't getting it from my family, I got to grow up in the Lord and be learning and growing, from when I was young. And yeah.
Did you have somebody special from church that really took you under their wing with discipleship?
Yeah, not really. Not really. I did have, a couple of the key ones I think of is, the woman who was my Sunday school teacher, and, probably had us all bow our heads and pray the prayer because I was new there. Probably she did it for me. I didn't know it at the time, and then I actually had stopped going to the church for a little while. And then when I was in maybe 7th or 8th grade, someone from the church called me out of the blue and just said, yeah, you haven't been coming to church, and we wondered if you would like a ride. And I didn't know how to say no. So I said yes. Even though I had sort of gotten into a Sunday morning routine that did not include church anymore. And that was kind of amazing that, this older couple just, I don't even know who was thinking of me or how they remembered me and thought that might be the issue, was that I needed a ride. And
So how did the gospel transform my life? So I gave my heart to the Lord. My mother led me to the Lord when I was 6. And I grew up in a Christian family, but I usually describe it as kind of a little dysfunctional. We weren't a strong Christian family. And so we kind of bounced around a little bit to some different churches, some different traditions. My dad didn't always go with us. So I think the thing I've thought, but I grew up with that. We went to church. I grew up with the gospel, heard pretty good preaching. And the thing that I think of with that question is that I think I'd be a very, it's hard to imagine. I think this is what I want to say. I've walked with the Lord for so long that it's hard to imagine what it would have been like. But I think I'd be a very selfish, self-absorbed, materialistic person on an entirely different path. Not that I'm not prone to selfishness. I'm still a human being here. But I think I'd be a lawyer or some businessman. I'd probably be on my 3rd marriage. And I might be an alcoholic because it runs in my family. And the Lord really rescued me from all of that before I had time to get into it, is how I think of it sometimes. And so I think sometimes the transformation comes later in life. Sometimes it comes from the beginning, and we better not forget that, just because sometimes people feel self-conscious about their testimonies. I guess I've never really struggled with that because I think of it this way. It's not glamorous, but he gets all the glory.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he continues to be at work through you and through us. And so what is he doing now in your life?
I'll go first. So we just moved. So if anyone who catches this in the QC here, we moved from Southwest Iowa. At a church I was at for 17 years. Wonderful church. They were sorry to see us go. We were sorry to say goodbye to them. I mean, there was nothing that was kind of pushed us out or anything. And so it was a big step of faith. I don't know. it's a big change. Actually, to cut to the chase, it's a big change. And I don't thrive on change. I can handle it. I know the Lord works through change, but left to my own devices, I try to make things as orderly and as unchaotic as possible. And so when you got to stuff everything you own after 50 years into boxes, and you were in a house for 17, I mean, it's just like all of the travails of neutral travails, but travails of moving was a lot. And it actually is still. So just learning. I'm a person who thrives, who likes to think he's in control and moving. And Laura's in the middle of a job search, and our house is, you've been for sale, right? You've got all that going on, and you can't really control it. So it's been good for me. It's been good to it's been a good trust exercise in a different way that I've had to do in a while. So it's been good for me.
And I was going to pick up on that same theme, although I was really just going to say for both of us, just like trusting God in a way that people in their 50s, which we both are, I know, I don't look it, but people in their 50s
I do.
Don't usually. I didn't say we.
We're all like, oh, I would have put him at 60. Yeah.
People in their 50s aren't often called upon in our society to sort of pick up and change everything. I mean, we changed our location, and both of us changing jobs and kind of doing it in a way that is very much a step of faith for a whole bunch of different reasons. And, it's part of the uniqueness of what Don does, and I do along with him, is, there's a call. And all of us need to know how to listen to the Lord and respond. But for us, it involves a job disruption and a location disruption. And so a lot of what we talk about now is how even when we have those anxieties about not having a job, or the sense of dislocation about when Don can't find all of his stuff, and we just keep on saying, like, in some period of time from now, everything will be settled and everything will be fine, and we'll be absolutely saying, see, God just provided for everything and it's all worked out perfectly fine and we're good. And so in that in-between time, do we want our story to be one of constantly being stressed out and anxious and worried about it, or do we just want to be walking in faith and trust and waiting to see how he's going to provide? So that's the space we're in right now.
That's a good space to be in and to share with us too, because we all have those things in our life where we feel unsettled, and to know that we don't have to stress in the unsettled, but we can trust the Lord through it. So thank you for that, and thank you for spending a few moments
Thank you.
Thank you.
to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun.
Really nice.
Thanks.